Welcome to Aviation this week on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi. 9 domestic airlines operate scheduled flights in the country, while 19 airlines operate international flights in and out of Nigeria. That's data from the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. In popular parlance, airlines are said to sell speed and safety. But these days, domestic passengers in Nigeria say airlines are operating below par as delays and cancellations take the day. How exactly can carriers in Nigeria do better in the area of scheduled integrity? That's our interest. Plus, an Afghan woman gives birth on board an evacuation flight from Afghanistan. Let's get started.
The air transport industry, including airlines and its supply chain, are estimated to support $600 million of GDP in Nigeria. These virtual bridges in the air enable the economic flows of goods, investments, people and ideas that are the fundamental drivers of economic growth. In the first quarter of the year, 14,662 domestic flights operated in the country. 7,554 were delayed. That's about 50%. 562 flights were delayed out of the 1,871 international flights operated out of the country. 9 international and 149 domestic flights were also cancelled. Getting a flight across the country has become relatively easier, but the delays and cancellations are still persisting. Some passengers share their experience on this challenge.
Delayed flight is something common with us here in Nigeria. Most times they will tell you the flight is maybe 12 o'clock. Sometimes you end up spending 2-3 hours. The flight will leave maybe by 3. And they will tell you due to bad weather or due to one operational reasons or the other, which is usually not the best, because why people travel through the airport is because they want to keep appointments on time. Sometimes I may have an appointment in Abuja billed for 3 o'clock, and I expect that if I catch a 12 o'clock flight, I should be in 55 minutes or an hour 30 minutes, I should be in Abuja. Most times you see people missing their appointments and all that, which is not very good for us.
In aviation team, you have time limit. When you say, oh, I'm going on social place, my time is 11 o'clock and I must go. And when you come down here to the airport, you say, we will delay you for 3 hours, 4 hours because the aircraft is not full. Story come upon, even they can even cancel the flight because of that.
While delays and cancellation are the order of the day, this passenger has a grouse over turning up late for his flight.
I'm boarded the flight for Uyo, scheduled for 9:45. But apparently I got here around 9:05. So I was told that they were checked in. So all avenue to plead and beg for concession to join the flight were abortive. So I was asked to be scheduled for the next available flight, which was for 1:45, and the price was not funny at all. So I had to pay an extra charge for about 11,000 plus, which for me it's a rip-off. You get. So I think if a flight is scheduled for 9:45 and give or take the passenger comes like maybe say 40 minutes before the time, then I think there should be some room for concession. Because the flight has not even left at all. You get. If I come out after maybe 10 or 15 minutes before, then I think that's fine. But so that's just my own plight. I should be looked at it generally in the aviation. At least there should be some room for, because there should be anything, like an emergency for the person that is coming to board. There should be room generally. So that's just my own experience that I want the industry to look at least. Thank you.
Okay. What do you think should be done for the passenger that will be delayed like 1 or 2 hours?
Okay, so there should be more room for incentive, because when I came in, I complained to them. They said that if I had checked in online, then maybe I would have been granted that concession. So I said, fine, this information I get telling me now. If I was told, maybe in your ticket, I said, fine, if you are coming few minutes to, you can check in online, then probably I won't fall into that victim. So sometimes this is our loopholes. So people are not, if you're not informed, definitely you'll be looped from that perspective. So for me, it's a loophole for me today. Thank you. Kiss the edit is the name.
Deals that
Another traveller believes the industry regulator should step up its game.
most times these things happen without any serious apologies. They just tell you due to operational reasons. And it's not good. So the NCAA and we should sit on the airlines. When you do these kind of things, the NCAA should have a unit that checks if actually there's an issue.
While travellers believe carriers are not living up to their contractual agreement, an operator says airlines strive to live up to their billing, but other issues could interfere smooth operations.
They might be coming to the airport to come and fly, and there will be traffic. When I was coming here this morning, I waited some 2 hours because there was an accident. So a lot of things cause these delays. We beg, we sympathize and empathize with passengers, what they go through, but it's for their safety. Again, facilitation at the airports. If you have a 6:30 flight and over 1,000 people are queuing up to pass through one scanner, there's bound to be delays. If that 6:30 flight now goes at 7:30 or 7, you've lost 30 minutes or thereabout. You can never recover that.
In some daylight airports across the country, airline operators must schedule their flights within the time given, bringing to the fore aircraft utilization planning. Meanwhile, Nigeria's Civil Aviation Authority has warned all airlines to always adhere to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Regulations and Passengers' Bill of Rights in their dealings.
I would like to make it very clear that no airline would like to cancel, delay flights deliberately. It must be beyond the airline, beyond the airline's way of, control before they can say, okay, we're delaying this flight or we're canceling the flights. Delay cancellations will always occur in aviation, not in Nigeria, globally. Now, how you handle the delays and how you handle the passengers and how you communicate to the passengers is another thing. And what you do to compensate for these delays and to compensate for this cancellation, when there is a delay, for airlines to delay because of weather, because you don't want to arrive at a destination or take off from a destination where there is bad weather. And you enter into a situation where you jeopardize the lives of your passengers. So what you want to do is whenever there is a report of weather, an hour after your departure, same thing to you, an hour before your arrival, an hour after your arrival, so a pilot can make a decision, or a dispatcher can make a decision what is best for the airline, when is best for the airline to enter into Abuja, let's say, for instance.
As the federal government continues with moves to concession 4 international airports across the country, the concessionaires are expected to provide the investment required to upgrade their existing terminals, take over the new terminals, and maintain them over a period of 20 or 30 years. While the government moves on with its plans, aviation unions appear not to be on the same page as they resist the plans.
There is no basis whatsoever that they have given for concessioning the airports. They have not said what investment is required in the airport that any person is coming to make in order to entitle the person as a concessionaire for the airports. As far as we see from our end, this exercise of asking for bids, just like all the other efforts before, it's an exercise in futility because we don't know what is to be concessioned or what the investor is coming to invest in airports that are already built up, brand new airports. If the minister says there are no job losses, I'm sure even the minister himself does not believe in what he's saying. So you are going to carry out a concession exercise, and the concessionaire is free to to pick to use the staff or not to use the staff. And you say there will be no job losses. Are you going to force the employees on the concessionaire?
The European Union has moved to reinstate COVID travel restrictions like quarantine and testing requirements for unvaccinated citizens of the United States and 5 other countries. EU countries started a procedure to remove the United States from a list of countries whose citizens can travel to the 27-nation bloc without additional COVID restrictions. The non-binding list currently has 23 countries on it, including Japan, Qatar, and Ukraine. But some of the 27 EU countries already have their own limits on US travelers in place. The list is compiled on the basis of COVID-19 situations in each country, as well as reciprocity. Despite EU calls, the United States does not allow European citizens to visit freely, and the bloc has been divided between those pushing for equal treatment and those more reliant on tourism and reluctant to restrict US travelers. Finally, Qantas Airways says it's preparing for international travel with countries with high vaccine rates to resume in December, sending shares higher as it reported a narrower annual loss of $1.26 billion. Pending government decisions, Qantas said it expected flights to countries like Singapore, Japan, the United States, Britain, and hopefully New Zealand. It's a hopeful sign for travel in the Asia-Pacific region, where borders are largely closed and international travel is 95% below pre-COVID levels, though the Qantas plan is dependent on government decisions. Flights to places with lower vaccination rates like Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, and South Africa will restart from April 2022 at the earliest.
As we foreshadowed back in May, the Qantas Group posted a statutory loss before tax of $2.3 billion for the 21 financial year. At the underlying level, the loss was $1.8 billion. Total revenue loss since the start of the pandemic rose to around $16 billion. $4 billion of that was in the last financial year and $12 billion this financial year. Like many elements of the plan, it relies on decisions by the Australian government. Now, we have been in regular discussions with the government and shared our plan with them. While they don't also have a crystal ball, they agree with our broad assumptions and agree that this plan is reasonable. And I believe there being some commentary from some key ministers today to that extent.
Airlines and leasing firms are rushing to permanently convert old passenger jets into freighters, betting on a boom in e-commerce as the value of used planes tumbles amid the pandemic. This is now creating a huge opportunity for passenger-to-freighter conversion companies, including Singapore Technologies Engineering, Israel Aerospace Industries, and US-based aeronautical engineers.
Lately, and I believe that the cause is the COVID-19, we figured out that the freighters kept the channel of life in the world, and there was increasing in the demand of conversion. Well, most of the economy now in the world is done by e-commerce.
When Aviation This Week returns, our feature for the week is next. Do join us again.
Archer Aviation has unveiled its first electric flying taxi maker in a Tesla-style debut as an increasing number of investors and aviation companies pile into the hot but yet to be approved urban air mobility space. Interest in zero-emission aircraft that take off and land like helicopters but fly like planes is growing as aerospace companies look for new markets and face pressure to help decarbonize their industry through the battery-operated vehicles.
batteries are within exactly the amount of power you need in order to fly economically viable missions. And electric motors are now power dense enough where we can still do the same thing. And so we're at this incredible juncture here. We are going to see these vehicles flying in and around our cities, and we can do it in a really safe, cost-effective, and sustainable way.
Archer expects makers' commercial launch in 2024 in Los Angeles and Miami, and is in the process of certifying the piloted 4-passenger aircraft with the Federal Aviation Administration.
And we're really at a point now where these type of aircraft can be commercialized and brought to market. We're currently in process of certifying our piloted 4-passenger aircraft with the FAA and expect to be in market in 2024. And we've announced 2 launch cities, Los Angeles and Miami.
Archer is building electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that will be used in and around urban environments. So these vehicles take off and land like a helicopter, but then they also fly forward on a wing. And they're all powered by these electric motors. So it's this brand new type of aviation that we're really seeing kind of being ushered in, all being driven on the advancements of battery technology.
The taxis can fly at 150 miles per hour, that's 240 kilometers per hour, for distances up to 60 miles, at an entry-level price between $3 and $4 per passenger mile.
The beauty when we move to fully electric is we reduce the maintenance significantly. We have no fuel costs, we only have charging costs, and we believe this will be a really affordable transportation solution to the masses. So our entry-level price is between $3 to $4 per passenger mile. So you're really looking at $50 to $70 trips kind of in and around cities.
In New York City, for example, the 17-mile trip from JF Kennedy International Airport to Manhattan would cost $50 to $70 and take around 5 to 7 minutes versus 60 to 90 minutes in a car. While experts estimate the FTOL market to be worth billions over the next decade, it is not expected to make money immediately, and the timing of regulatory approval remains uncertain. The FAA has said it can certify new technologies such as FTOLs through its existing regulations or issue special conditions or additional requirements depending on the type of the project.
Talk with him, he will give you.
It's a roundtable meeting of the top management of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, and the Director General of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority is in attendance. Infrastructure upgrade at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport is the subject of discussion.
That's the whole purpose of this, part of this, to show us the efforts, the challenges, the difficulties they're facing, and the efforts and measures they are putting in place to deal with this.
For the Airport Authority, the 18 left runway lights, which has been a challenge for years, is about to receive attention.
Finally, the Honourable Minister has graciously accepted to resolve that issue that has been contracted and has agreed to grant us permission or approval to quickly procure and install a new light. We know that there's an existing contract or procurement for it. It was issued about many years, over 8 years ago, so it's not something that we know much about, and I cannot say much about it. And I know it's part of government regulation, you cannot just procure the same thing twice.
To address the challenges of passenger facilitation, which has persisted since June, respite appears to be on the way as the Resa Airport Data System platform is being installed. He also adds that the new Lagos terminal is due for testing.
There's also some consideration that are done before you can commission an airport, testing of facilities themselves. The CCC also agreed that they need to bring almost all the different complex equipment they put before they can say, okay, release to service.
The system is expected to cover not only the Lagos International Airport, but that of Abuja, Kano, Port Harcourt and Enugu. JetBlue Airways' first transatlantic flight from New York to London has arrived at Heathrow Airport in a plan to grab market share with low fares and drive a recovery on what is usually one of the world's busiest and most lucrative international routes. transatlantic travel remains partially short as the United States is still not allowing most travelers from Britain into the country because of the coronavirus pandemic. Anyone who does enter, including U.S. citizens, must present a negative COVID-19 test. The UK only opened to fully vaccinated U.S. travelers earlier in August, but New York-based JetBlue pressed ahead with the start of its daily John F. Kennedy Airport to Heathrow service, counting on its new Airbus A321 jets, a longer-range variant of the A321neo, to underpin profits. JetBlue's chief executive officer said the launch was already driving a price war, with fares between New York and London falling since its flights went on sale.
The thing about the transatlantic market is no one's really under threat because there's not really any competition. You've had high-fare legacy airlines go into these joint ventures, keep fares very high, and so it needs an airline like JetBlue to come on and have a disruptive and sustainably disruptive impact on the market. Since JetBlue started selling seats on the Atlantic, you've seen fares both in economy and business class absolutely tumble. And that's because of JetBlue. So even if you don't fly on JetBlue, we're helping you get a better fare.
UK-based airlines British Airways and Virgin Atlantic are struggling in the pandemic because, unlike US rivals American Airlines, Delta Airlines and United Airlines, they do not have a large buoyant domestic market to fall back on. JetBlue, which plans to add flights to London's Gatwick in late September and between Boston and London next year, was more affected than other US airlines during the pandemic because its hub airports were heavily affected by lockdowns. The Federal Aviation Administration has asked U.S. airports to assist in the government's effort to crack down on disruptive and violent air passengers amid a string of high-profile incidents. The United States has seen a significant jump in reported cases of passengers causing disturbances on airplanes, including many for refusing to wear face masks. Through August 1, the FAA has received more than 3,700 reports of unruly passengers this year, with the vast majority of them involving passengers not wearing masks. The FAA has initiated 628 investigations, more than 3 times the number last year. Finally, on Aviation this week, an Afghan woman on board a Turkish Airlines evacuation flight to Britain has given birth to a baby girl with assistance from the cabin crew. 26-year-old Soma Nori started having contractions during the Turkish Airlines flight from Dubai to Birmingham and gave birth as the plane flew at an altitude of 33,000 feet in Kuwaiti airspace. Turkish Airlines said Nori and the baby, who was named Hava, were both in good health. The plane, which was carrying Afghan citizens who had worked with Britain in Afghanistan, landed in Kuwait as a precaution but later continued to its destination. Aviation this week winds down here. See you next time, God willing. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi.